What should you tell your doctor after an injury? So, what ends up happening is maybe you were hurt in a car accident, or you're hurt at work, or some other type of injury, you fell on some property, and you have an appointment coming up with your doctor, and you're wondering what should you tell your doctor? Well, my name is Jon Howell. I'm an attorney in California, and I primarily handle cases where people have been hurt or lost a loved one, and many of my clients have to go to the doctor and explain to them what happened and what their injuries are. And these are some tips for you. So first of all, this is the easy one. Always tell the truth and don't exaggerate or lie, because that'll always hurt you in these cases. And I always recommend starting with the truth. With that out of the way, the next thing that's important is that you give a explanation or talk about all the body parts that are bothering you. And a common problem that comes up is I have clients or other people that want to hire me, and they went to a doctor and they missed injuries that they have. And this is more common than you think, because what ends up happening is usually there's a more significant injury, like let's say a neck injury, and it's causing a lot of pain. And that's what everyone's focused on, or that's what the person is focused on. And so when they go to the doctor, they just talk about the neck injury, but they're also having a hip injury, or maybe they hit their head and they're having headaches. But they're so focused on the neck, they don't mention that. And one technique or tip that I recommend is to start from the top of your head and go to your toes and think to yourself when you're at the doctor's office, is there anything going on with my head? Is there anything going on with my jaw, my neck, my shoulders, my arm? Just go top to bottom and mention anything, even if you think it's insignificant, because sometimes those insignificant injuries can cause major problems in the future. They can become chronic or not go away. So if in the example of the neck pain, if your neck pain gets better, but you still have these really bad headaches and maybe it's causing you to become dizzy, and it turns out you had a concussion and you never told the doctor about it, it's going to be more difficult, and the insurance company is going to use that against you. So it's just better to start from the top of your head and go down to your toes. Another thing that's important is when you talk to the doctor about what happened, I mentioned always be truthful, but keep it simple. You know, the doctor is treating you for injuries. They don't need a long explanation about what happened. And oftentimes there can be a transcribing error between what you tell the doctor and what they end up putting. And then, the accident facts are not necessarily that important to the doctor. Obviously, they want to know some basis for your injuries or how it happened, but you don't need to go into extreme detail. And one problem that I've noticed people come up with is, they go to the doctor and maybe they're still emotional about the accident. They say, "Oh, I think I was rear-ended 100 miles an hour." And then we will get the photographs and we get the evidence, and it's like, okay, well, it was more like 10 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour. But the doctor writes that down in the report and says, that's what you said. And then that gets used against you like you're exaggerating. So just be careful about how you describe things. I recommend keep it simple. If you fell at a store, just say I was shopping and I fell on if it was because of something dangerous on the floor, I fell because of something dangerous on the floor. Or if it was a car accident, I was, stopped and I was rear-ended. Period. That's enough. Another thing is it's important when you're talking to the doctor, understand what the doctor's telling you and ask questions. And I do recommend ask questions like, what is the diagnosis and what do you recommend for me in the future? Because sometimes people go to these doctors' offices and the doctors are busy and they kind of sometimes have to rush the patient through, or they have something else on their mind and they don't even really tell you what their diagnosis is or what they recommend in the future. Sometimes they just write a prescription and hand it to you, or a nurse will come in and kind of tell you, okay, here's your receipt for today. I do recommend that you follow up, ask questions, ask questions like, are you recommending I take any medications? Do you recommend I see a specialist? Do you recommend that I get therapy or some other type of treatment to help with the back pain? What should I do if it doesn't get better? Ask those questions because that'll help you. And then later on, after the doctor visit, you can decide, okay, was this doctor helpful? Did they provide the treatment that I was looking for? Do I need to get a second opinion because it seemed like this doctor wasn't really paying attention and too busy to explain things to me? Because that does happen. And this is your health, which is the most important thing. And you're going to need answers to these types of questions. So those are a couple tips for you if you find yourself in a doctor's office after an accident.